Good evening, and welcome back to Nova's Sleepy Tales. Tonight we begin a peaceful journey into one of the oldest mysteries in the history of North America. Long before cities, kingdoms, or written words, there lived a people whose story remained hidden beneath the earth for thousands of years. They left behind no books, no monuments, and no names for themselves. Yet, through a few carefully crafted stone tools buried beneath ancient soil, they quietly introduced themselves to the modern world. Before we begin, if you enjoy calm journeys through history that help you relax and drift off to sleep, consider subscribing to Nova's Sleepy Tales. There are many more peaceful stories waiting for you. Now, settle into a comfortable position, let your breathing become slow and gentle, and allow your thoughts to wander back nearly 13,000 years. Our story begins not with people, but with silence. Imagine standing on a wide grassy plain somewhere in what is now North America. The air is cool. A gentle breeze moves across endless fields. Far away, enormous glaciers still cover parts of the continent, shining softly beneath the pale morning sun. Rivers carry icy water toward distant valleys, while herds of ancient animals slowly cross the landscape. Everything feels quiet. No engines, no roads, no cities, only nature, moving at its own peaceful rhythm. For thousands of years, this world remained almost completely forgotten. Season after season passed. The wind carried dust across the plains. Rain slowly covered old campsites with layers of earth. Plants grew, withered away, and returned again. Generation after generation disappeared into history, leaving almost nothing behind except small pieces of carefully shaped stone. Those tiny objects waited patiently beneath the ground, not for decades, not for centuries, but for nearly 13,000 years. Then, during the early 20th century, something remarkable happened. In the American state of New Mexico, near a small town called Clovis, workers and archaeologists began discovering unusual stone spear points buried deep beneath ancient layers of soil. These tools looked different from anything they had seen before. Each one had a beautiful fluted groove running through its center. The edges were carefully sharpened. Every detail showed remarkable skill and patience. It quickly became clear that these were not ordinary stones. They had been shaped by human hands. Hands that belonged to people who had lived during the final centuries of the Ice Age. As more discoveries were made, archaeologists realized they had uncovered evidence of one of the oldest known cultures in North America. Because the first major discoveries were found near the town of Clovis, these ancient people became known as the Clovis People. It is important to remember something very gentle here. We do not actually know what these people called themselves. The name Clovis is simply the modern name given by archaeologists after the place where the remarkable stone tools were first studied. Their real language, their real names, the songs they may have sung, the stories they may have shared beside evening fires, all of these have been carried away by time, and perhaps there is something peaceful about that. Instead of knowing every detail, We are invited to imagine a quiet world built upon careful evidence left behind in stone, bone, and earth. Every discovery is like listening to a whisper from a very distant past, not a loud voice, just a gentle reminder that thousands of generations lived meaningful lives long before history books ever existed. The Clovis people did not know they would become famous. They were not trying to leave a message for the future. Like every family throughout history, they were simply living one ordinary day after another, finding food, protecting their children, building tools, watching the changing seasons, looking toward tomorrow with hope. Today, scientists continue studying these ancient discoveries with great care. Modern technology helps reveal how old the stone tools are, where they were made, and sometimes even tiny traces of the animals they once touched. Every new discovery adds another small piece to a puzzle that has remained unfinished for thousands of years. Yet many mysteries still remain. Where exactly did the Clovis people come from? How far did they travel? How did they adapt to such a challenging world? And what can their quiet story teach us about the earliest chapters of human life in North America? These questions have inspired decades of careful research. Tonight, we will explore those questions slowly, patiently, one peaceful step at a time. There is no rush, only the quiet rhythm of history waiting to unfold. So, as the gentle winds continue to move across the ancient plains, and as the stars slowly begin to appear above the Ice Age sky, let your thoughts become lighter. The earth beneath those distant fields still holds many secrets. And somewhere beneath layers of ancient soil, one carefully crafted stone point waited thousands of years before quietly introducing the world to the people we now call the Clovis people. That single discovery opened the door to one of America's oldest human stories. And our peaceful journey has only just begun. As the quiet night settles over the ancient plains, let us continue our gentle journey. The people we call the Clovis people lived around 13,000 years ago, near the end of the last ice age. This was a time when the world looked very different from the one we know today. Great sheets of ice still covered much of northern North America, while the lands farther south stretched across wide grasslands, winding rivers, peaceful forests, and open valleys. Although we call them the Clovis people today, we do not know the name they used for themselves. Perhaps they had a word that meant our people. Perhaps they named themselves after a river, a mountain, or an animal they admired. Or perhaps their name has simply been carried away by thousands of years of passing time. No one can know for certain. What we do know comes from careful discoveries made by archaeologists. Stone tools, animal bones, ancient campsites, small pieces of charcoal left behind by forgotten fires. Each discovery is like a quiet sentence from a very old story. None of them tells the whole tale alone, but together they allow us to gently imagine how these early people may have lived. The Clovis people were not one large city or one powerful kingdom. Instead, they likely lived in small family groups, perhaps only 20 or 30, maybe 40 people traveling together. Grandparents, parents, children, friends. Everyone depended upon one another. Life during the Ice Age rewarded cooperation far more than competition. No one could survive entirely alone. Every member of the group had an important role. The strongest adults searched for food. Others carefully prepared animal hides. Some shaped stone into sharp tools. Older members passed down knowledge gathered over many seasons. Children watched closely, learning simply by observing those around them. There were no classrooms, no books. Nature itself was their greatest teacher. Each sunrise brought another lesson. How to follow animal tracks, how to notice changing weather, how to recognize safe plants, how to respect the land that provided everything they needed. Unlike many people today, the Clovis people probably owned very few possessions. Everything they carried needed a purpose: a spear, a stone knife, warm clothing made from animal hides, simple containers, perhaps a carefully chosen stone passed from one generation to another. When it was time to move, nearly everything traveled with them. Their homes were temporary, their journey was constant. The seasons decided where they would go next. During warmer months, they might travel across broad grasslands where great herds of animals gathered. As colder weather returned, they would seek places offering shelter from harsh winds and deep snow. Their lives followed the quiet rhythm of nature. Not clocks, not calendars, only changing skies, flowing rivers, and the steady movement of the land itself. For many years, scientists believed the Clovis people were the very first humans to enter North America. Today, new discoveries suggest that other people may have arrived even earlier. Archaeologists continue studying ancient sites across the Americas, and each new discovery helps us understand the past a little better. Rather than replacing the Clovis story, these discoveries simply remind us that history is often more complex than it first appears. The Clovis people remain one of the earliest well-documented cultures in North America because of the remarkable stone tools they left behind. Their story is still one of the most important chapters in understanding the continent's ancient past. Perhaps that is one of the most comforting things about history. It is never truly finished. Each generation learns a little more. Each careful excavation uncovers another small clue. Each discovery gently connects us with people who lived thousands of years before us. And even though we may never know every detail of their lives, we can still appreciate the quiet courage it took to build families, travel across unknown landscapes, and face each new season with patience and hope. As the stars continue to shine above the peaceful Ice Age sky, imagine those small groups of travelers resting beside glowing campfires. Their conversations have faded into silence, their footsteps have long disappeared, but their story still quietly lives beneath the earth, waiting for us to listen. The first light of morning slowly spreads across the endless plains. A gentle mist rises from a nearby river, and the cool air carries the scent of damp grass and fresh earth. Somewhere in the distance, birds begin their quiet morning calls, while the last stars fade from the pale blue sky. For a small Clovis family, another ordinary day is about to begin. There are no alarms, no clocks, only the familiar rhythm of nature. As the fire from the previous evening still glows beneath a blanket of soft ashes, one of the adults carefully places a few dry branches onto the embers. A thin ribbon of smoke rises into the calm morning air. Soon, gentle warmth begins to spread through the camp. One by one, the family slowly awakens. Children stretch beneath warm animal hides. Older members quietly sit beside the fire, enjoying a few peaceful moments before the day's work begins. No one rushes, there is no reason to. The sun has only just appeared above the distant horizon. Their shelter is simple. Archaeologists believe Clovis people probably built temporary camps using wooden poles covered with large animal hides. These shelters were not meant to last forever. They were homes for a season, or perhaps only a few weeks, before the group continued its journey. Everything around them reflects a life of careful balance. Nothing is wasted. Every object has a purpose. Nearby rests a bundle of carefully shaped wooden spears. Beside them lie smooth stones, selected for making new tools. Animal hides are folded neatly, ready to become clothing, blankets, or coverings for future shelters. The family owns very little by modern standards, yet everything they have is valuable. One of the younger children watches an older family member sharpening a stone tool patiently, very patiently. Each careful movement removes only the smallest flakes of stone. There is no hurry. Making a good tool requires steady hands and quiet concentration. Perhaps the child will one day learn this same skill. Perhaps years from now they will teach another child in exactly the same way. Knowledge is never written down. It lives inside people, passed from one generation to the next through careful observation and gentle practice. Nearby, several adults quietly discuss the day ahead. Fresh animal tracks were seen near the river yesterday. If the herd has remained nearby, today's journey may be short. If not, the family may continue traveling before sunset. No one knows exactly what the day will bring. Nature always decides. Some family members prepare simple meals using food gathered during previous days. Perhaps dried meat carefully preserved over a small fire. Perhaps edible roots collected from nearby ground. Perhaps seeds or berries found during earlier travels, depending on the season. The meal is simple, but it provides the energy needed for another day. As breakfast ends, the youngest children begin exploring the area close to camp, always within sight of the adults. They notice interesting stones, small animal tracks pressed into damp soil, colorful feathers resting quietly among the grass. Even these simple discoveries become lessons. Every day teaches something new. Every walk becomes part of their education. Far beyond the camp, large Ice Age animals slowly move across the landscape. Their distant shapes are softened by the morning mist. The Clovis family watches carefully. Not every animal is a source of food. Some are too dangerous. Others are simply passing through. Patience is one of the greatest skills these people possess. They understand that survival often belongs not to the fastest, but to those willing to wait. As the sun climbs a little higher into the sky, the quiet camp begins preparing for the next stage of the day. Some tools are gathered, fresh water is collected, animal hides are folded, the fire is carefully managed so it can continue burning safely. Nothing is left to chance. Every small task helps protect the family. Looking at this peaceful morning from thousands of years later, it becomes clear that although their world was very different from ours, many parts of life remained wonderfully familiar. Parents cared for children, children learned from their elders, families shared meals, friends worked together, hope greeted each sunrise. And as another calm day begins beneath the wide Ice Age sky, the Clovis family quietly steps forward into a world filled with both uncertainty and quiet possibility. Their journey continues, one peaceful day at a time. The gentle morning slowly gives way to the warmth of midday. The cool mist has disappeared, replaced by soft sunlight stretching across the wide grasslands. A light breeze bends the tall grasses into gentle waves, while distant clouds drift quietly above the endless horizon. For the Clovis people, this is often the best time to begin following the great herds. They know the land well, not because they own it, but because they have spent countless seasons learning its quiet patterns. Long before setting out, several experienced adults kneel beside the ground, studying the soft earth with careful eyes. A single footprint, a broken branch, fresh droppings, grass pressed flat by heavy bodies. To most people today, these signs might seem ordinary, but to the Clovis hunters, they tell an entire story. The herd passed here not long ago. They were moving slowly. Several young animals were traveling with the adults, and judging by the direction of the tracks, they were likely heading toward a nearby river. No words need to be spoken. A few gentle hand gestures are enough. Everyone understands the plan. The group begins walking, not quickly, not carelessly. Each step is measured, each movement is quiet. The Clovis people understand something that nature teaches every living creature. Patience often succeeds where speed does not. The journey may last for hours, sometimes even days. Along the way, children observe everything. They notice birds circling high above the plains. They watch insects moving through wildflowers. They learn which plants grow near fresh water and which places offer shelter if the weather suddenly changes. Every walk becomes another lesson. No classroom could ever be larger than the world around them. Far ahead, enormous shapes slowly appear against the distant horizon. A herd, large, dark, moving together across the open grassland. These are mammoths, woolly giants of the Ice Age. Their long coats sway gently in the breeze. Massive, curved tusks catch the sunlight. Despite their tremendous size, they move with surprising calmness. The Clovis people stop. No one rushes forward. No one makes unnecessary noise. They simply watch. They know these animals deserve respect. A healthy adult mammoth is one of the most powerful creatures on Earth. Hunting such an animal would require careful planning, teamwork, and a deep understanding of both the landscape and the behavior of the herd. Modern archaeologists believe the Clovis people sometimes hunted mammoths, supported by discoveries of Clovis spear points found alongside mammoth remains at several archaeological sites. At the same time, they likely relied on many other animals as well, depending on the season and the opportunities nature provided. Life was never centered around a single source of food. Flexibility was essential. As the hunters quietly observe the herd, they pay attention to every small detail. Which animals remain close together? Which direction is the wind blowing? Are there steep hills nearby? Is there soft ground that might slow the movement of such enormous creatures? Nature rewards careful observation. The Clovis people have learned this lesson well. For a long while nothing happens. The herd continues grazing peacefully. The hunters continue watching patiently. There is no disappointment in waiting. Waiting is part of the journey. Sometimes the wisest choice is simply to return another day. Food can often be found elsewhere. The safety of the family is always more important than unnecessary risk. As the afternoon sun slowly begins its gentle descent, the group quietly turns back toward their camp. They have gained something valuable today. Not only knowledge of where the herd is traveling, but a deeper understanding of the land itself. Every journey adds another memory, another lesson, another quiet piece of wisdom that will one day be shared with the next generation. And as the great mammoths continue their slow walk beneath the endless Ice Age sky, the Clovis people disappear once more into the tall grass. Moving with the same quiet rhythm as the ancient world around them. The afternoon sun hangs gently above the open plains, casting long, peaceful shadows across the grass. A cool breeze moves quietly through the valley, carrying with it the distant calls of birds and the soft rustling of dry leaves. The Clovis family has returned to camp after following the great herds, and now another important part of the day begins. It is time to make new tools. Among all the discoveries archaeologists have uncovered, nothing has become more closely connected with the Clovis people than their remarkable stone spear points. These carefully crafted tools are now known as Clovis points, and they remain one of the greatest achievements of Ice Age craftsmanship. Thousands of years have passed. Yet many of these stone points are still so finely made that their sharp edges can easily be recognized today. Imagine sitting beside the fire with one of the skilled tool makers. There is no hurry, only patience. Beside them lies a collection of carefully chosen stones gathered over many journeys. Not every stone is suitable. The Clovis people searched for strong, fine-grained rocks such as flint, chert, jasper, or obsidian where those materials were available. These stones could break in smooth, predictable ways, allowing skilled hands to shape them into razor-sharp tools. Finding the right stone was often the first challenge. Sometimes the best materials could only be found many days away. Archaeologists have discovered Clovis stone from sources hundreds of kilometers apart, suggesting that these people either traveled great distances or exchanged valuable materials with other groups they encountered along the way. Each piece of stone was valuable. Nothing was wasted. The toolmaker gently places a stone upon a piece of leather resting across their leg. Using another rounded stone, they strike the edge with careful precision. A tiny flake falls away, then another, and another. Each movement is slow. Each strike has a purpose. Too much force could ruin hours of careful work. Too little would accomplish nothing. The sound is surprisingly gentle. A quiet click. Another click. Small flakes scatter onto the ground like tiny pieces of glass, catching the afternoon light. Little by little, the rough stone begins to take shape. Its edges become thinner. Its point grows sharper. Then comes the feature that makes the Clovis point so famous. Using remarkable skill, the craftsperson removes a long flake from the center of the tool, creating a shallow groove that archaeologists call a flute. This delicate step is one of the hardest parts of the entire process. Many attempts likely failed. A single mistake could split the stone completely. Yet the Clovis people became masters of this technique. Even today, modern experts who attempt to recreate Clovis points often spend years practicing before they can consistently produce one successfully. Once completed, the stone point is carefully attached to the end of a wooden spear using natural materials. Plant fibers may be twisted into strong cord. Tree resin can help secure the point. Animal sinew taken from tendons tightens as it dries, holding everything firmly together. The result is both elegant and practical, a simple tool, yet one that reflects extraordinary knowledge, patience, and experience. Around the camp, younger members of the family watch closely. Perhaps one child carefully picks up a discarded stone flake. Another studies the hands of the experienced craftsperson. No formal lesson is spoken aloud. Learning happens through quiet observation, season after season, year after year. Knowledge passes from one generation to the next, as naturally as sunlight passes across the sky. As the afternoon slowly fades toward evening, several finished spears rest beside the fire. Each one represents many hours of careful effort, not simply a weapon, but a symbol of skill, of survival, of human creativity during one of the coldest chapters in Earth's history. And somewhere far in the future, thousands of years beyond anything these people could imagine, one of those carefully crafted stone points will rest beneath the soil, waiting patiently until curious hands uncover it once again, allowing the quiet story of the Clovis people to be told across the ages. The afternoon slowly begins to fade. Golden sunlight stretches across the wide grasslands, and long shadows drift quietly over the earth. In the distance, the enormous shapes of ancient animals continue their peaceful journey across the plains, just as they have done for countless generations. For the Clovis people, every season follows the great herds. The land provides many gifts: berries, roots, fish, and smaller animals, but the movements of the largest creatures often shape the rhythm of their lives. Among them all, none is more impressive than the woolly mammoth. Standing more than 3 meters tall at the shoulder, covered in thick brown fur and carrying long curved tusks that can reach several meters in length, a mammoth is one of the largest animals a human being could ever encounter. Yet despite its enormous size, it is not a monster. It is simply another family trying to survive. Young mammoths remain close to their mothers. Older members protect the herd. They search for fresh grass, clean water, and safe places to rest. In many ways, their lives are not so different from those of the people quietly watching from a distance. The Clovis hunters understand this well. They never rush toward a herd. Instead, they spend long hours observing. They notice which animals are old, which are young, which trails the herd follows each season, where they cross rivers, where they stop to feed. This patience is perhaps their greatest skill. Modern archaeological discoveries suggest that Clovis people sometimes hunted mammoths and mastodons, but such hunts were probably rare and carefully planned. A successful hunt required teamwork, experience, favorable terrain, and a great deal of caution. Most days were likely spent searching, watching, learning. Not fighting. Imagine a small group quietly resting behind a gentle rise in the land. No one speaks. The only sounds are the soft wind moving through the grass and the distant footsteps of the herd. The hunters wait for the right moment, not because they enjoy danger, but because unnecessary risk could endanger the entire family waiting back at camp. Every decision carries great responsibility. If a hunt succeeds, the reward is remarkable. A single large animal can provide food for many days. Its hide becomes warm clothing and shelter. Its bones may be shaped into useful tools. Even strong tendons can become durable cords. Nothing is wasted. Every part has value. This careful use of nature reflects something deeply important about the Clovis way of life. They take only what they need. The land is not simply a place to live, it is a partner in survival. As the seasons change, the great herds continue their endless journeys across rivers, valleys, and open plains. The Clovis people quietly follow. Sometimes they travel only a short distance, sometimes hundreds of kilometers over many months. Their paths are guided by water, weather, and the movements of animals they have come to understand over countless generations. The children learn these routes little by little. An elder might point toward a distant mountain. Another might recognize a familiar river bend. There are no maps made of paper. The landscape itself is the map. Every hill tells a story. Every river marks a memory. Every valley reminds someone of a season long ago. As evening approaches, the mammoth herd slowly disappears beyond the horizon. The Clovis family watches until the last great shape fades into the golden light. tomorrow. The journey will continue. Perhaps they will follow the same trail. Perhaps the herd will choose another path. Nature is always changing, and so the Clovis people learn to change with it. They do not try to control the world around them. Instead, they listen carefully to it. In that quiet understanding, they discover something more valuable than certainty. They discover balance. As the first stars begin appearing above the peaceful Ice Age sky, the wide grasslands grow silent once again. The mammoths continue their ancient walk beneath the fading light. And somewhere nearby, a small Clovis family prepares for another calm evening beside a glowing fire, grateful for another day spent living in harmony with the vast and beautiful world around them. The last colors of sunset slowly disappear beyond the western horizon. A deep blue sky settles gently over the ancient plains, and one by one, countless stars begin to appear. The air grows cooler, and the sounds of the day slowly give way to the quiet music of the night. Back at the Clovis camp, a warm fire glows softly in the center of the small circle of shelters. Tiny sparks rise into the darkness before disappearing among the stars. For the Clovis people, the busiest part of the day has ended. Now comes a time for rest, for family, and for quiet companionship. Several adults carefully place fresh pieces of wood onto the fire. The flames brighten for a moment before settling into a calm, steady glow. Around the fire, children wrap themselves in soft animal hide blankets. Older family members sit comfortably nearby, enjoying the peaceful warmth after a long day of walking across the open plains. There is no hurry. Tomorrow will arrive in its own time. For now, tonight is enough. One of the adults begins repairing a fur cloak that has become worn during many journeys. Using a simple bone needle and strong animal sinew as thread, each careful stitch helps prepare the clothing for another season of travel. Nearby, another family member quietly smooths the handle of a wooden spear. A young child watches with curious eyes. No formal lesson is spoken. Instead, knowledge is shared through patience. The child observes every movement, how the tool is held, how the sinew is tightened, how each task is completed slowly and carefully. This is how skills survive across generations, not through books, but through quiet example. Archaeologists believe that cooperation was one of the greatest strengths of small Ice Age communities. Every person likely contributed in some way. The strongest might travel farther in search of game. Others prepared food, repaired clothing, gathered useful plants, cared for children, or crafted new tools. No role was unimportant. Every task helped the family survive another day. As the evening meal is shared, the food is simple but nourishing. Perhaps roasted meat from a recent hunt, perhaps roots gathered from the nearby land, perhaps dried berries saved from an earlier season. The meal is shared equally among the group. No one eats alone. The fire provides more than warmth. It offers safety. Its light keeps the darkness at a respectful distance. Its smoke helps discourage insects. Its glowing embers can be carefully preserved until morning, making it easier to begin another fire without starting from nothing. For thousands of years, fire has been one of humanity's greatest companions. The Clovis people understood its value well. As the night grows quieter, conversation becomes softer. Although we can never know the exact words spoken around these ancient fires, it is easy to imagine gentle moments of laughter. Stories shared after a successful journey, children asking curious questions, elders remembering seasons long past. These moments leave no trace in the archaeological record. No stone tool can preserve a smile, no spear point can record a parent's comforting voice. Yet these simple human experiences were almost certainly as important then as they are today. Sometimes when we study ancient history, we focus on great discoveries. Stone tools, bones, ancient campsites. But perhaps the greatest story is much quieter. It is the story of ordinary evenings like this one. Families sitting together beneath a sky full of stars, sharing warmth, sharing food, sharing hope for tomorrow. As the fire slowly settles into glowing embers, one by one the members of the Clovis family prepare for sleep. Outside their shelters, the vast Ice Age world continues its gentle rhythm. The wind moves softly through the grass. A distant owl calls into the darkness. Far away, mammoths continue their slow journey beneath the moonlight. And here, beside a peaceful fire that has burned through another successful day, a small family closes their eyes. Safe together. Warm together. Ready to greet another sunrise in the ancient world they call home. The gentle glow of dawn returns once again. A thin layer of morning mist drifts across the valley, and tiny drops of dew shimmer on the tall grass. The camp is quiet. Only the soft crackling of last night's fire and the distant songs of birds can be heard. A new day begins, but today something feels different. The air is a little warmer than it was many seasons ago. The snow resting on the distant hills seems to melt a little earlier. Small streams carry more water toward the rivers below, very slowly, almost too slowly to notice. The world is beginning to change. The Clovis people cannot see thousands of years into the future. They do not know that the Great Ice Age is slowly coming to an end. They simply notice what nature tells them. Each spring arrives a little differently. Some rivers follow new paths. Certain plants begin growing in places where they were once rare. The familiar rhythm of the land starts to shift. For people whose lives depend completely upon nature, even the smallest changes are important. The experienced elders quietly observe everything. They notice fresh animal tracks appearing in new valleys. Some familiar herds arrive later than expected. Others choose different routes entirely. Nature is always speaking. The Clovis people have learned to listen. Modern scientists believe that toward the end of the Ice Age, Earth's climate gradually became warmer. Vast glaciers slowly retreated northward, rivers changed course, forests expanded into areas that had once been open grasslands, and many ecosystems transformed over generations. these changes did not happen overnight. They unfolded across many lifetimes. To the Clovis families living through them, the changes probably felt slow and subtle. One generation might remember colder winters. Their grandchildren might remember warmer ones. No single day marked the end of the Ice Age. Instead, it was a long and peaceful transition. As the landscape changed, so did the animals. Some large herds became less common. Others moved into new regions. Smaller animals appeared in greater numbers. The Clovis people adapted, just as human communities have always adapted throughout history. They explored unfamiliar valleys. They learned new migration routes. They discovered different plants and new sources of food. Their greatest strength was never simply their tools. It was their ability to learn, to observe, to adjust. Around the camp, life continues with its familiar rhythm. Children gather smooth stones beside a nearby stream. Adults inspect worn spear shafts, replacing those damaged during earlier journeys. Others collect dry wood before afternoon rain clouds arrive. Each small task reflects careful preparation. No one knows exactly what tomorrow will bring, but everyone prepares as best they can. The changing world asks new questions, and each season offers new answers. Perhaps that is one of the quiet lessons the Clovis people leave behind. Life is never completely still. Mountains slowly change. Rivers find new paths. Animals follow different horizons. Even the greatest glaciers eventually melt beneath the patient warmth of the sun. As afternoon light gently spreads across the ancient landscape, the Clovis family looks toward the distant horizon. Ahead lies another journey, another season, another chapter in a world that is slowly becoming different from the one their ancestors first knew. They cannot stop these changes, nor do they try. Instead, they continue walking, one careful step at a time, trusting the land that has guided them for countless generations. And beneath the endless sky, surrounded by a world quietly transforming around them, the story of the Clovis people continues, carried forward by patience, by resilience, and by hope. The sun slowly disappears beyond the distant hills. The evening sky is painted with soft shades of gold, pale orange, and deep blue. A cool breeze gently moves across the grasslands, carrying with it the quiet sounds of nature settling down for the night. The Clovis family has reached another peaceful campsite. Their shelters stand beside a calm river that reflects the first evening stars. A small fire burns gently at the center of the camp, just as it has on countless evenings before. Tonight, however, our journey turns toward one of the greatest mysteries in ancient American history. What happened to the Clovis people? For many years, archaeologists have searched for the answer, and even today, no one knows with complete certainty. Perhaps that uncertainty is part of what makes their story so fascinating. Thousands of years ago, the Clovis culture seemed to spread across much of North America. Their beautifully crafted stone points have been discovered in many different regions, from the Great Plains to the deserts of the Southwest and beyond. Then, over time, those distinctive Clovis points gradually became less common. Instead, new styles of tools began to appear. It was not as though an entire people suddenly vanished overnight. Rather, the archaeological record suggests a gradual change. The Clovis way of making tools slowly gave way to other traditions. But why? Scientists have proposed several thoughtful possibilities. One idea is that the climate was changing. As the Ice Age came to an end, glaciers continued to melt, temperatures slowly rose, and familiar landscapes transformed. Animals that had once been common became fewer in number, while forests expanded into areas that had previously been open grasslands. For communities whose lives depended so closely on nature, adapting to these changes would have been essential. Another possibility involves the great Ice Age animals themselves. Many of the giant mammals, including mammoths and mastodons, became extinct near the end of the Ice Age. Exactly why this happened is still debated. Most researchers believe it was likely the result of several factors working together, including climate change and human hunting, though the relative importance of each remains an active area of scientific research. As these magnificent animals disappeared, people naturally adjusted their way of life. They hunted different animals. They explored new environments. They developed new tools better suited to a changing world. There is also another comforting way to think about this story. Perhaps the Clovis people did not truly disappear at all. Perhaps they simply changed. Children grew into adults. Families moved. New traditions were learned. Old traditions slowly faded. Generation after generation, their descendants continued living across North America, adapting to new conditions while carrying pieces of their ancestors' knowledge with them. History often works this way. Cultures evolve, ideas change, people adapt. The end of one chapter quietly becomes the beginning of another. As darkness settles over the peaceful campsite, the Clovis family knows nothing about the debates that scientists will one day have. They are not thinking about archaeology. They are not wondering how future generations will remember them. They are simply living another ordinary evening, sharing food, watching the stars, preparing for tomorrow's journey. Perhaps that is the greatest lesson they leave behind. Life is lived in the present. History is written much later, and beneath the quiet night sky of the ancient world, surrounded by rivers, forests, grasslands, and distant mountains, the Clovis people continue forward, not disappearing, but becoming part of the long and beautiful human story that still continues today. The fire burns softly, the stars shine peacefully overhead, and the mystery of the Clovis people remains one of history's most gentle invitations to keep learning, to keep wondering, and to appreciate the quiet lives of those who came long before us. The night has become wonderfully quiet. Above the ancient plains, countless stars shimmer softly against the dark sky. The campfire has faded into a bed of glowing embers, and a gentle breeze carries the scent of grass, fresh earth, and the nearby river. Almost everyone in the Clovis camp has fallen asleep. Only one elder remains awake for a little while longer. Wrapped in a warm hide blanket, they sit quietly beside the fire, watching tiny sparks drift upward before disappearing into the endless heavens. The world feels peaceful, timeless. It is difficult to imagine that nearly 13,000 years separate their quiet evening from our own. Yet, in many ways, people have always been remarkably similar. They cared for their families, they searched for food, they learned from their elders, they wondered what tomorrow might bring, and they looked up at the same stars that shine above us tonight. Perhaps that simple thought is the greatest connection of all. The Clovis people never imagined that future generations would search for traces of their lives. They did not build great monuments, they did not carve long written histories into stone. Instead, they left something far quieter. A carefully shaped spear point, a circle of stones where a fire once burned, fragments of animal bone, tiny flakes of flint scattered across an ancient campsite. To someone passing by thousands of years ago, these things may have seemed ordinary, but to archaeologists today, they are priceless. Every discovery adds another small piece to the story of the earliest people who lived across North America. Modern scientists carefully uncover these ancient sites one layer at a time. Using delicate brushes instead of large shovels, they gently remove soil that has rested undisturbed for thousands of years. Every stone is carefully recorded, Every fragment is photographed. Every discovery is treated with patience and respect. Sometimes the smallest object tells the biggest story. A single stone point can reveal how skilled its maker was. A piece of charcoal can help estimate the age of an ancient campsite. Animal bones can reveal which creatures once shared the landscape with these early families. Even tiny grains of pollen preserved beneath the earth can help scientists understand what plants were growing thousands of years ago. History often whispers, it rarely shouts. The Clovis story reminds us that understanding the past requires patience, careful observation, and a willingness to accept that some mysteries may never be completely solved. Perhaps that is perfectly all right. Not every question needs a final answer. Sometimes the journey of discovery is just as meaningful as the destination. As the elder quietly places one final piece of wood onto the glowing embers, the camp grows silent once again. Children sleep peacefully inside their shelters. The stars slowly continue their endless journey across the sky. Far beyond the camp, mammoths wander beneath the moonlight. Rivers continue flowing toward distant valleys. The wind gently crosses the grasslands exactly as it has for countless generations. Everything feels connected. The people, the animals, the rivers, the mountains, the sky above. For the Clovis people, nature was never something separate from life. It was life itself. And perhaps even today there is something comforting in remembering that we too remain part of that same living world. As our peaceful journey comes to its end, let your thoughts become as calm as the quiet plains beneath the stars. Imagine the warm glow of the ancient fire slowly fading into gentle embers. Feel the cool evening breeze drifting softly across the grass. Listen to the distant sound of a peaceful river flowing through the sleeping land. And with that quiet image resting gently in your mind, we leave the Clovis people where they have always belonged, not only beneath the ancient soil of North America, but also within the long, remarkable story of humanity itself. May your own night be peaceful. May your dreams be gentle. And may the quiet echoes of the ancient world carry you into a deep and restful sleep. Good night.